live demo. I'm so excited that you're able to join me today. I'm sorry about yesterday. We lost our power at, what was it, 8 a.m. and then we didn't get back until 6:30, and they kept telling us that we were going to get it back, and it just didn't happen. So it would have been kind of impossible to bake or to cook something if we didn't have electricity. So, but here we are today. I'm so excited. We're going to be making my favorite recipe. Well, actually, it's really Corey's favorite recipe. Chicken with mustard sauce, which is a great weeknight dinner. And I also thought it would be good because other than the chicken, I guarantee you pretty much have everything else in your pantry. So this is a really easy recipe to make. If it was non-quarantine time and you found yourself with some extra chicken, this is a great recipe to make. Or if someone unexpectedly said, we're coming over for dinner, another great recipe to use. So I love that it's really flexible. There's a lot of different ways you can prepare it. I'm going to be talking about a few of those different ways. Some of the substitutions you can make, some of the options or stuff you can add, what you can serve as a side dish, all that good stuff. So let's get started. I'm going to turn the pan on really quick because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to saute our chicken. So I'm putting some olive oil in the pan and also some butter. Butter for flavor, olive oil because it has a higher burning point, and if you just use butter, I think it'd probably end up burned by the time you finish browning your chicken, and you don't want that to happen because burned butter doesn't taste good, which we covered in the last lesson. So the first thing we're going to do is season our chicken. I actually have two kinds of chicken here. I've got boneless, skinless breasts and boneless, skinless thighs. I'm going to do both because I had them. Either one is totally fine for this recipe. You could even use bone in, skin on. The only thing I would make sure to do is when you're browning your chicken, make sure that the skin is completely crispy, and also make sure at the end when we're braising our chicken in the sauce, you let it cook all the way through because bone-in chicken takes longer. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to salt and pepper our chicken. This is the first thing that I think a lot of people have trouble with, is that they do not season their chicken enough. People talk about how bland chicken is. You really have to season it, okay? I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna go really heavy here. A good dose of salt. And you want it on both sides. Don't be afraid. You're gonna say, oh, I'm afraid it's gonna be too salt and peppery, but I promise you it won't be. So you can use ground pepper, that's totally fine. I just have my neat little pepper grinder here. I'm also going to put on poultry seasoning, which is a great thing you can use not just during the holidays. The other thing, if you don't have poultry seasoning, don't go out and buy it. You can put thyme on it. You also don't have to put anything at all besides the salt and pepper, but definitely put the salt and pepper. I'm going to just shake a little bit on here. I actually do not know what's in poultry seasoning. Maybe someone can tell us what is actually in poultry seasoning, because I don't know. But it has a lot of things that chicken likes. So we'll keep it at that for now.
Hence the name.
Look at that, our first insert from Mr. B. Okay. I'm just checking my pan to make sure it's hot. When you're sauteing chicken, the other thing I would recommend if you want to get a nice brown crust on your chicken, that almost went right off.
Move the salt.
Is make sure that when you're taking it out of the packaging, dry it with a paper towel, because it's really hard to get something brown and crispy if it's wet. It's basically impossible. So as you can see, this is very well seasoned, right? So let's go over here and we're going to put, I think only half of this is going to fit in the pan. So we're only going to put half in, and then we'll do the other half. So it's nice and hot. Don't be afraid of a hot pan. I'm using non-stick, but you can always use stainless steel or whatever else you have. And don't overcrowd the pan. Don't be afraid of doing like I said, like 2 sets like I am. While that's cooking, and the other trick that I should mention is once you put it into the pan, don't move it around a bunch. Just let it go. I'm at like medium heat, and we're going to let it go for a little bit. gonna chop some shallots. In the recipe I talked about, you could also use onion, totally fine, red onion, yellow onion, white onion, it really doesn't matter. The nice thing about shallots, if you talk to restaurant chefs, they will tell you that shallots are one of their secret tricks to make things taste really good. For some reason, home cooks don't really use them a lot. But they're always pretty much available in every grocery store I've ever been to. You cook them just like an onion. They just have like kind of a milder flavor. So far I haven't managed to cut myself, so that's pretty good. My number one fear chopping things on Facebook Live is having to stop because I like chop my finger off. Be careful. Practice good knife safety. And I won't be taking like a full Q&A session like I did with the cookies because there's not like a really great time for that. But if anyone has any questions, go ahead and type it into the comment box, and Corey's trying to keep an eye out. If he misses it and it's really important, ask him again. Okay, so we've got shallot. Let me check my chicken. Like I said, don't fuss around with it. See? We're getting some color, but we're not quite there yet. But like, I know a lot of people would see this pan and they'd be like, oh no, it's burning. No, it's not burning. It's browning. That's creating flavor. This pan it's a one pan meal, which is even better. But this is creating flavor. So here I'm breaking my own rule by fussing with it. But seriously, don't be afraid. And you do this. I'm not saying you as in the people watching, but Corey does this. Whenever I'm like turned away doing something else, he'll start fussing on the stove and like moving stuff around. I'm like, don't do that. It's not ready to do that. Okay. See there, that's probably pretty good. I would probably let that go a little bit further. But it's fine for now. That's really nice color. This is all nice color. Oops, that one got pretty dark. But that's not burnt. That's just flavor. And the other thing I want to mention is that we are not trying to cook this chicken in full. Like, if I tried to cook this whole chicken breast all the way through, sauteing it, despite my talent in the kitchen, it would be dry as fuck. Sorry to use a colorful term there, but it would be. So that's why we're going to braise it, finish cooking it in the end with the sauce. So don't worry about cooking it all the way through. These chicken thighs will actually probably get cooked all the way through because they're really thin and small. But these two puppies, we're definitely going to end up finishing the cooking time in the sauce. And doing it that way will prevent it from getting tough and dry. So I have my plate here. These are almost ready. They look nice color. And also you can see the seasoning. That's important too. Anyone had any questions so far, Corey?
Where did you get your apron?
I don't know. Williams in Sonoma, maybe?
They couldn't see that from far away.
Yes, it's from Williams in Sonoma, which they have nice stuff. It can be kind of expensive, so be careful about that. So now we have our second batch. Now the other thing is I'm using these tongs. I used them to flip the chicken when I was seasoning, and I'm using it to cook the chicken in the pan. But as soon as I'm done cooking the chicken, these tongs are going to go into the sink. You don't want to keep cooking something in the pan that you had raw chicken that you were flipping with, because that's bad. And now my mother is beaming because she taught me well. No, she's not beaming. I'm seriously breaking all my rules here. Don't be like me.
Sorry, wait, it flashed to me. My thumb slipped.
Well, I'm really glad you brushed your hair in your shower today. Okay. I'm going to put this in the sink. We'll deal with that later. Actually, we'll deal with that later. I guess if anyone had any non-cooking questions, I could answer them. Anyone have any burning questions? Did everyone read the teaser today that I posted about hazardous things? Hopefully you did. The book is coming well, along well. Jesus. Okay. You would never think that I write for a living. A couple things. So we're gonna have all our other ingredients here. One of the things I want to talk about is wine, which is optional. I know you can't believe I'm telling you that wine is optional, but it's optional. So right now we're using something that actually comes from where we used to live in that area in the Pacific Northwest, from the Columbia Gorge, a great little winery run entirely by women that name all their wine after literary characters. This one is appropriately named Lizzie from Pride and Prejudice, which is why I'm using it today. Also because it's great wine. The important thing to remember when you're cooking with wine or with spirits is there is some advice out there that says you can cook with something cheap, and you can, but just the problem is that when you're cooking with wine or with other alcohol, is you're basically condensing the flavor down. So if you cook with something that you don't like the taste of, or it tastes crappy, it's going to taste more crappy. So the important thing is to make sure that you don't have to cook with something expensive. In fact, I wouldn't recommend it because we're going to put a lot of this in here. But I would recommend cooking with something that you like the flavor of, because otherwise it'll be kind of gross, and that's not what we want. So this is actually, any kind of white wine would be fine. I personally don't like Chardonnay, which is highly documented everywhere. I would use a Sauvignon Blanc. You could use a Pinot Gris or a Pinot Grigio. This one is actually a little bit weirder. It's a 62% Roussanne and 38 Marsanne. I have no idea what that means. But it's kind of like a lighter white wine, and that's totally, perfectly fine. Okay. This puppy's coming off. Oh, look, I probably just tripped all over the counter. Corey's freaking out. I will bring the plate over. Okay. Now we're going to turn the heat down to like medium, a little bit under medium. Because we're going to cook our shallots and our garlic, and we do not want those to burn. I am going to put a little bit more butter in the pan, because butter is flavor. And I'm not going to overfill this thing, because I always do when I spill it everywhere. So now, if you're using onion, now you'd put the onion in, or the shallots, or you could even use both if you wanted. Like I said, this recipe is really adaptable. If you wanted to put sliced mushrooms in, that's really good. I've done that before, and this would be the time you'd want to put those in with the shallots. Let that go for a minute, and then we'll get ready to put our garlic in. I don't need that anymore. So I don't know how many of you watch Rachel Ray. This is a great little gadget thing. It's like $10 on Amazon. Maybe not now. It's usually $10 on Amazon. It has this thing. So instead of spending 10,000 years chopping your garlic, you just grate it into the pan, like straight into the pan. It's great, wonderful. I got it for Christmas. Who gave it to me for Christmas? You did? Oh, thanks, Corey. I ask for things and I get them, and then I don't remember who gave them to me. So we can see the shallots is coming on nice. I'm going to add the garlic now. So watch and observe. One thing, do not grate your fingers. It's very easy to do that. Also, don't have your pan go off the stove either. Full of things not to do. I'm using 3 cloves. You are free to use however much garlic you want to. We are going to cook it, so if you really love garlic, go for it. Just maybe don't have a date Or if you're both eating it, it's probably fine. Okay. Okay, so our garlic's in. Like I said, you want to make sure you have turned the heat down because you do not want your garlic to burn. A lot of people don't like garlic. I'm literally prefacing Rachel right here because they have overcooked their garlic and it burned and it got bitter. That's not good garlic. So we're just going to saute this for a minute. The next thing we're going to put in is wine. I'm really excited about that, if you couldn't tell. It was kind of one of those days. It's actually kind of been one of those weeks. So I think we're ready. So I'm going to turn the heat up just a little because what you wanted to do is what's called deglaze the pan. And you can tell I'm putting quite a bit in. But this will cook down. And if you don't want to use wine, if you don't feel comfortable cooking with wine, it will all cook out so you can serve this to kids without a problem. You just use additional chicken stock. That's totally fine. You didn't see that either. Corey, would you like some wine? Okay. And you thought we were getting away with
I'll hold it
things.
with my toes because.
Well, you thought we were getting away with things by not having wine last week, but we're definitely having wine this week. And I told Angela this, but we are very good at drinking a whole bottle of wine with dinner. No shame. So we're just going to let this cook down for a minute. Any other questions that anybody has? Where's my wine? No? Okay, let's go back to the subject of what else would you like to see me cook in a Facebook demo, because I have some ideas, but I have not decided on the next one that we're going to do. So we could go back to baking. We could do another dinner recipe. We could do, I know that soup was asked for last time. That would be something we could do. That has a lot of extra time built into it though. And God knows you don't want me rambling at you for a long time. So like I said, it's reducing. You just gotta wait until it reduces. What? This? Just tell me what you want. This goes into the sink. Okay, yes. No. I don't understand. That's okay. It's fine. Okay, we're still reducing.
So we have votes for one pot meals and baking bread.
Oh God. I can bake bread. I have a bread machine, which does all the work for me. It's great. I'm thinking, do I make anything that doesn't? I could make cinnamon rolls, but then I use the Pioneer Woman's recipe, and you could just go look it up there, and you wouldn't have to watch me humiliate myself. You could just watch her.
Yeah, and your one pot meals are Instant Pot, so.
No, I mean I have other. This is a one pot meal.
Yeah, I know, but that's.
Well, I mean we could use the Instant Pot.
And everybody could just sit and watch it steam for 45 minutes.
It would be very interesting. I'll give you that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to add is a little bit of stock. So I like to buy this one from Costco, but any chicken stock or broth is fine. I also recommend low or no sodium because then you can control the salt that's going into your food, which is always a good thing because we are going to salt it, but we want to make sure that we're not over salting. So as you can see, this is cooked down quite a bit. So I'm going to add the stock now. And I did put amounts in the recipe. That's probably fine. But they are absolutely not precise because I made this recipe up and I, as you can see, don't measure anything. So that's partly why. doesn't seem right to you in the recipe, please let me know and I'll fix it. So we're gonna let that come to a boil again. And then we're gonna add our mustard. Now I did talk in the recipe about the kinds of mustard that we're gonna use. Dijon is a really good one. There's so many different kinds of Dijon mustard. We were at Wegmans the other day and they had like, I don't know what, 5 kinds of Dijon mustard with various different, like some had like whole seeds, some of it was grainy. I like Dijon, just the regular Grey Poupon is just the smooth, most, like the biggest amount, because I like to put 2 kinds in, but I put the most in of this smooth kind. The other great thing about cooking with mustard is that it has a lot of the things that we like to taste and eat, like already inside of it. Like, I mean, I could go get like mustard powder and I could get lemon juice and, you know, spices and garlic and all those things, or I could just put this in. So this is easier. So we're gonna add like a 1/4 cup maybe. That splattered a little. Corey usually doesn't get away with not cleaning the stove. Okay. So, this would usually take less time, but I'm like cleaning this jar out, so it's done. Oh, I don't have to use this one. Okay, so now we're just going to incorporate the mustard, the first mustard. You can also just use one mustard. Like I said, this recipe is completely adaptable. And the best part is that I'm not going to know what you did in your kitchen, so you can do whatever you want. And I'm never going to like message you and be like, come on, why didn't you follow my recipe properly? Why didn't you use 2 mustards?
So a couple questions.
Yes.
Did you completely make up this recipe on your own, or is it a variation of something else? Because you said you made up the amounts and things.
So I think it probably was at some point a variation of someone's recipe. This is by no means an original idea. A lot of cooks out there and chefs and blogs have a variation on this. I think, I'm trying to remember who I saw it from first. I've been making it almost as long as we've been together, right? Yeah, so, I mean, a long time, like 10 years. That is a long time. I'm going to add this is a spicy brown mustard. I actually really like, they didn't have this kind of Wegmans and I was out. I like a grainy mustard that has some seeds in it because it kind of adds a nice texture to the dish. They didn't have that, so I'm using a spicy brown mustard. I think adding 2 kind of gives you a different variation of flavor. So I'm adding some of that in there. As you can tell, my amounts are very precise. Okay.
The other question was related to sides. Do you have recommended sides?
Yes. So the best thing about this recipe is it can go with so many different things. I have served it with mashed potatoes, roasted potatoes, baked potato, rice, pasta. I think that the best kind of side that this goes with is like a potato, like a mashed potato, or noodles or rice, something you can like put the extra sauce on, because the sauce is like the best part of the dish. So that's my recommendation. Tonight we're actually having a leftover potato that is not any of those things because I have it. But yeah, I have made it with all that stuff and it's very tasty. Corey especially, like I said, this is his favorite thing that I make. Of course that changes, but most of the time it's his favorite thing. And he likes me to cook something with it that he can put more of the sauce on, because mustard is one of his favorite things. Okay, so this is just still kind of working its way. Oh, we're gonna re-season now. We season the chicken heavily, right? But this also needs seasoned, because it's not going to taste good if you don't season it. Salt and pepper brings out the flavor of things. You should not be afraid of salt and pepper. So we're going to re-season it. And then you should always taste it. Corey, do you think you can hand me a spoon, since you're right by the door? If it's a no, I can go get it. don't hit your wine. Okay. So this is also beginning to thicken up a little bit, which is good. I don't put any thicker in this. If you think that you need it to be a little bit extra thick, you could always throw in like a tablespoon of flour or cornstarch. I like to use my favorite thickener, which is heavy cream. You could also use half and half. You could use milk if you're trying to be really healthy, which obviously I'm not trying to be really healthy right now. I'm going to turn it down a little. I'm going to add a little bit of this, and then we're going to taste it. And usually at this point, I figure out that it needs more mustard, or it needs more chicken stock, or it needs more something. Unfortunately, I can't come to your house and taste test it for you and say what it needs. But that would be nice if I could do that. So, let's try not to burn myself.
This is where I comment. She always adds salt and mustard.
Okay, we almost couldn't open that, and that would have been really embarrassing. And guess what else it needs?
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going to add a little bit more of that spicy brown mustard. I'm only missing that one that we have in Oregon. I don't miss many things about Oregon. I miss my best friend. I miss the tortilla chips I really liked there. I miss that mustard. My priorities are in order. What are you talking about? Okay. Oh, and I was going to finish the conversation about sides. So the other thing I like to make with this is like just a simple vegetable, broccoli, zucchini, green beans, though that makes Corey upset if I make green beans because he gets tired of green beans. I love green beans. Or peas would be really great. You could even serve it with a side salad. I mean, it's so adaptable. But the one thing I do really recommend is if you're going to serve it with a side dish, make sure it's one that you can like douse with the sauce, because the sauce is the best part. So
that's why I recommend broccoli. A little mustardy.
Just a hair. I think I need more stock. Okay. I knew I should have gotten the other one out of the fridge.
Pantry break.
Pantry break. Let's not come over to the pantry because it's kind of a disaster zone. Okay. Sometimes you're a little over enthusiastic and put too much mustard in, but that's easy to fix. Also, you could also fix it the favorite way.
See, I thought the favorite way might be wine. It's past that though.
We're past that point. I mean, I could. The thing is wine, I mean, even with like a very mild wine, is a strong flavor in and of itself. So you don't want to like take a strong flavor away like mustard by adding more strong flavor. So chicken stock will dilute it. The cream will dilute it a little bit more. The other thing that I like to add, and I forgot to write this on the recipe, my favorite spice of all time, it's not thyme, it's dill. Dill is fantastic in this, especially if you put mushrooms in. It's good anyway, and I'm going to put it in, but if you put mushrooms in, make sure you put the dill in. We both really like dill, so I'm going to be really generous. That was probably really generous. But you could put additional poultry seasoning in if you wanted. You could put thyme in. You could put nothing at all. I actually got as like a Christmas gift this like food basket one year, and they actually had like a dill mustard, which was like the best of both worlds. And I made this with that, and it was delicious, which is how I got the idea to put dill in the first place. So we're bubbling away here. I'm going to do another taste. You want to make sure that your sauce tastes exactly how you want it before you put your chicken into braise. Because if it doesn't taste good and you put your chicken in, the chicken is going to absorb that flavor that you don't like. So that's not good. Don't do that. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to decide what it needs. The other thing is the chicken will help to naturally thicken it, and also if you let it simmer for like a while, which is what we're gonna do, it will naturally become thicker. So if that bothers you, like I said, you can always put in a little flour, you can always put in a little cornstarch. Up to you. I'm not gonna come track you down and arrest you. Okay, now we're gonna put the chicken back in carefully, since I don't have my tongs anymore. That's why Corey always has to clean the stove. More tongs. Okay. Corey asked me before we got started if I was going to be able to fit all of this chicken in this pan. I think that's a challenge, and I'm ready to accept. Now, the thing about braising is you want to make sure that it is covered, or mostly covered. Now here we have some, like, see these juices in this pan? Do not throw this away. This is all flavor. That goes right in. So let's get these puppies all nice and covered. I'm actually not going to put the lid on. You could put a lid on. That would make sure all your moisture stays trapped. The problem with putting a lid on, especially now, is it will not reduce your sauce and make it thicker. And I had to put a bunch of extra chicken stock in because I was over enthusiastic with the mustard. So I definitely wanted to reduce more. For these boneless, skinless breasts especially, I would braise this for like 10 minutes at least. When you, the best way to tell if chicken's done is to kind of feel it, and if it feels firm all the way through, especially in the middle, you're probably good. The nice thing about me cooking these two together is that you can do pretty much anything to chicken thighs and they still are tender and delicious, which is why they're my favorite, because it's hard to screw them up.
I might have missed, did you talk about browning the skin and also cooking this longer on the bone? If
you're using bone-in chicken, make sure you cook it longer, because bone-in takes way longer. I would cook it for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. You could also use a thermometer to tell if it's done, but I never do that, which usually results in me end up having to microwave the chicken. No lie. But make sure that you braise it long enough. And like I said, this is another good opportunity for your sauce to get thicker. And for you to step aside and make your side dish. Is if you have more than one. But that's why you want to make sure you have enough sauce and also a deep enough pan, is because you want to make sure that it is mostly covered. But that will prevent your chicken from getting dry, especially if you have boneless, skinless breasts, which get dry very easily. So that's the recipe. If you guys have any other questions, I would be happy to answer them right now. Any other questions? No? I must have explained everything really well, or we don't have anyone watching this time. Everyone got terrified last time. I think that's everything. Thank you for tuning in an hour earlier. We were kind of killing two birds with one stone here, because we're going to eat this for dinner, which makes Corey very happy. If you have any other questions or comments, feel free to message me. Feel free to comment in this. I will go through and read all the comments after the Facebook Live is over. And I'm hoping that next week we can have a new episode. So if you have any other suggestions on things you'd like to see me try, feel free to shoot them to me. I'm always receptive. My inbox is always open. And last but not least, take care of yourselves. It's tough out there. We all need a little extra wine, especially today. So goodbye. Thank you.